When an entitled first-class passenger attempts to have a black woman removed from his flight based solely on her appearance, his world of privilege comes crashing down as he discovers she's not just a fellow passenger, she's the founder and CEO of the entire airline. Before we start the story, comment below where you're watching from today. And if you enjoy stories like this, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more. Gerald Whitmore considered himself a man of distinction. At 57, with salt and pepper hair perfectly coiffed and a tailored suit that cost more than some people's monthly rent, he had grown accustomed to a certain level of deference from the world. Today, however, as he boarded first class on Celestial Airways' flagship A380, his normally imperious expression had curdled into something distinctly sour. The cause of his displeasure sat in seat 2A, a young black woman dressed in simple but elegant business casual attire, focused intently on her tablet. What particularly irked Gerald was that she had boarded before him, despite his Platinum Elite Ultra status that had cost him years of loyalty and thousands in annual fees. "Excuse me," Gerald said, his voice dripping with manufactured politeness as he stood in the aisle. "I believe there's been a mistake. This is the first-class cabin." The woman glanced up briefly, offered a professional smile, then returned to her tablet. "No mistake. I'm in the right seat." Gerald's nostrils flared. He'd spent good money, his money, to avoid precisely this sort of situation. He flagged down a flight attendant, a cheerful young man named Marco. "Is there a problem, sir?" Marco asked. Gerald lowered his voice to a conspiratorial whisper that was still perfectly audible to everyone nearby. "I'm concerned there's been a boarding mix-up. I don't believe this person is meant to be in first class." Marco checked the passenger manifest on his tablet. "Sir, according to our records, Ms. Johnson is correctly seated in 2A. "That's impossible," Gerald hissed. "Look at her. She's clearly not a first-class passenger." The comments from Gerald were loud enough that several nearby passengers glanced over with expressions ranging from embarrassment to disgust. The woman in 2A continued working on her tablet, though a slight tightening around her eyes suggested she had heard every word. Marco's professional smile never wavered, though it became noticeably cooler. "Sir, I can assure you that Ms. Johnson is properly ticketed for first class. Now, if you'd please take your seat in 3C, we can proceed with boarding." Fuming, Gerald settled into his seat, immediately pressing the call button. When another flight attendant arrived, an older woman named Diane, he demanded to speak to the captain. "This is unacceptable," he sputtered. "There's clearly been a mistake, and nobody is willing to fix it." "What exactly is the mistake, sir?" Diane asked, though her expression suggested she already knew. "That woman does not belong in first class," Gerald said, pointing an accusatory finger at seat 2A. "I've been a Platinum Elite Ultra member for 15 years. I know who belongs up here." Diane's smile became even more practiced. "Sir, I understand your concern, but I can assure you that all passengers in first class have been properly ticketed and seated." "Then I want to speak to the captain," Gerald insisted. "Or better yet, someone from corporate. This airline has gone to hell ever since they started letting just anyone buy first-class tickets. Some people believe they have a way of instantly deciding who belongs and who doesn't. Why is that? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Comment the word equal if you believe we are all equal, no matter the color of our skin, black or white." The woman in 2A finally set down her tablet and turned in her seat. "Is there a problem back there?" she asked, her voice carrying the unmistakable tone of someone used to being heard. "This doesn't concern you," Gerald snapped. "Actually, it seems it does," the woman replied calmly, "since you appear to be talking about me." Gerald's face flushed. "Look, I don't know how you ended up in that seat, but—" "I paid for it," she interrupted. "Just like you paid for yours, though I suspect the company is regretting that decision right about now." Before Gerald could respond, the captain's voice came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Reynolds speaking. We're experiencing a slight delay while we sort out a passenger issue. We should be underway shortly." 5 minutes later, Captain Reynolds himself appeared in the first-class cabin, accompanied by 2 airport security officers. Gerald smiled smugly, certain that justice was about to be served. "Ma'am," Captain Reynolds said, approaching seat 2A, "I apologize for the disturbance." The woman nodded. "Thank you, Captain. I appreciate you coming to address this personally." Gerald's smug smile froze on his face as he realized the captain wasn't speaking to him. Captain Reynolds turned to face Gerald. "Sir, I understand you have concerns about our seating arrangements." "Yes, finally," Gerald said. "There's clearly been a mistake with—" "The only mistake," Captain Reynolds interrupted, "was our failure to properly identify an important passenger." He gestured to the woman in 2A. "May I introduce Dr. Maya Johnson, the founder and CEO of Celestial Airways." The entire first-class cabin went silent. Gerald's mouth opened and closed like a fish drowning in air. Dr. Johnson stood and extended her hand to the captain. "Thank you, Captain Reynolds, but that wasn't necessary. I don't typically announce myself when I fly." "I apologize, Dr. Johnson, but given the circumstances—" Captain Reynolds glanced meaningfully at Gerald. "Understood," Dr. Johnson said with a nod. She turned to address Gerald directly. "Mr. Whitmore, isn't it? I recognize your name from our Platinum Elite Ultra membership list." Gerald could only nod, his face now drained of color. "While I appreciate your loyalty to Celestial Airways, I must point out that your behavior today violates our passenger code of conduct. We pride ourselves on creating an inclusive environment for all our passengers, regardless of their race, gender, or background." Gerald stammered. "I didn't mean, that is, I was just concerned about—" "About what exactly?" Dr. Johnson asked, her voice still calm but now edged with steel. "What specific observation led you to conclude I didn't belong in first class?" The silence that followed was deafening. "Remember to like and subscribe if you think discrimination of any kind is disgusting," Dr. Johnson continued. "Security is here to escort you off this, Mr. Whitmore. Your ticket will be refunded, and unfortunately, your Platinum Elite Ultra status has been revoked, effective immediately." "You can't do that," Gerald sputtered. "Do you know how much money I've spent with this airline?" "Approximately $347,892 over the past decade and a half," Dr. Johnson replied without missing a beat. "Which is impressive, but still doesn't buy you the right to discriminate against fellow passengers." She glanced at her tablet. "I've also taken the liberty of booking you on a coach seat on our competitor's flight. It leaves in 3 hours, which should give you time to reflect on today's events." As the security officers moved toward Gerald, murmurs of approval rippled through the cabin. Several passengers began to applaud. "This is outrageous," Gerald protested weakly as he was escorted toward the exit. "I'll sue." "That is certainly your right," Dr. Johnson called after him. "Though I should mention that my previous career was as a litigation attorney specializing in discrimination cases. I'd be happy to recommend some excellent defense lawyers." As Gerald disappeared down the jetway, Dr. Johnson returned to her seat amid continued applause. Marco approached with a glass of champagne. "Compliments of the first-class cabin, Dr. Johnson," he said with a genuine smile. She accepted the glass with a nod of thanks. "I apologize for the disruption, everyone. Captain Reynolds, I believe we're ready for takeoff now." As the plane taxied toward the runway, Dr. Johnson returned to her tablet, where she was reviewing applications for Celestial Airways' newly expanded scholarship program for underrepresented youth interested in aviation careers. The program had just received an unexpected boost in funding, exactly equal to the lifetime value of one recently terminated Platinum Elite Ultra membership. The champagne, she had to admit, tasted particularly sweet today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. See you in the next one. Thanks for watching.